In British Columbia's Northern Rockies, the town of Tumbler Ridge is at the epicenter of a fight over foreign labor.
How are you?
How are you?
I'm fine, thank you.
I'm fine, thank you.
And you?
These men are all experienced coal miners who've recently arrived from China.
14.
They have almost no English language skills, but what they do possess, apparently, is an expertise missing in Canada. They know how to mine coal underground.
Hui Ji Li, very nice. I'm Chris, very nice to meet you.
Hui Ji Li is 24 years old.
Come and have a seat. We want to know what you think of Tumbler Ridge.
And for 4 years, he was an underground miner in northeastern China. His company, Chinese-owned HD Mining, has received permission to bring 200 temporary workers to Tumbler Ridge to begin developing an underground mine, and that's just the first wave. Other Chinese mining companies want to eventually import more than 2,000 coal miners from China to BC's north. Lee says he paid no recruiter's fees, just an internal transfer within his company that's the opportunity of a lifetime.
Well, I think it's great. I can fit the living here, and I have many friends now.
But Canada's labor unions are most definitely not friendly.
I think it's a debacle.
To them, this amounts to running a Canadian mine with cheap labor from China, and they've declared war.
I don't buy that we can't find people. I think in this case we didn't look for people, and the whole thing was a scam.
The fight has left the people of Tumbler Ridge and their mayor caught in the middle, yet quietly cheering for the Chinese miners.
We've seen them at our Remembrance Day ceremonies. I think we had a food drive for the food bank that they took part in. I think they're making great efforts to fit into the community, and the community is embracing them.
Tumbler Ridge is a quintessential one-industry town, built 30 years ago to sell coal to Japan. When commodity prices crashed in the 90s, the place emptied out and homes were auctioned off. But then, prices and the mines bounced back, and China's steel mills became the hungry new customer for the region's coal. So now, for the first time in a long time, new subdivisions are springing up in Tumbler Ridge, including a $15 million investment to house the foreign workers from China.
Compared to the camp I'm living in, it's awesome.
With dozens more miners set to arrive any day now, contractor Hank Ron is pushing to complete the project.
For every miner that's underground, there's going to be 4 or 5 spin-off jobs above ground. Like for Tumbler Ridge, for BC, for Canada. It's an awesome opportunity as far as I'm concerned.
But in documents filed in federal court, 2 BC unions are arguing there is no evidence of a shortage of qualified miners. They allege HD Mining's efforts to find suitable Canadian workers was a sham. Trevor Williamson says he wanted one of those jobs. He now works on one of Tumbler Ridge's open pit mines, but thought his years of mining experience put him in a good position to make the transition to underground work.
Figured the opportunity for me to start it, to learn, to be trained, would have been perfect for it.
What happened?
Nothing. I had an interview and it lasted about 10 minutes. Other than that, there was nothing that followed through with it.
He says when he asked about the premium for working underground, he says the company didn't have an answer.
There are bonuses to get people to go underground because it's so much more of a high-risk job that was one thing that keened in my head, like extra money, but they didn't have any answers for that.
And that struck you as odd?
Yeah, that was the other thing too. To me, they didn't have any answers for any of those kind of questions.
In this particular mine, 315 Canadians applied for jobs. Not one of them qualified. And then if you look at the qualifiers, you had to speak Mandarin to get a job there. Well, it kind of narrows it down to a pretty small percentage of Canadians.
The company says Mandarin was not a requirement for the 200 underground jobs. But after Ottawa okayed using temporary workers, then the postings in China did include Mandarin. The proposed mine is about half an hour outside of town, and on a very snowy day, its Chinese managers and Canadian contractors took us out for a tour.
I'll open it up. That's point 0 of the underground mine.
This is the very beginning of it, right here.
Very beginning. You come back in 2 years' time, You'll be able to drive down there on one of their little carts and see it all. It's pretty wild, man.
Most of Canada's coal mines are open pit operations, but at HD Mining's Murray River project, the coal is a kilometre below the surface. So the plan is to use a technique called longwalling to peel it away. And the company says there are simply no workers in Canada trained to do that. HD Mining's general manager here says China has many such longwall operations. Are you excited?
当然，你现在很激动吗？
很激动。
Very excited.
Why is it so exciting?
因为呢，那个在中国，
We are very excited because we have done a lot of projects in China, but in North America, we have never done that before. This is going to be the first one.
Underground workers here will earn between $25 and $40 an hour. That's about 30% less, claims the unions, than the Canadian industry standard. But Lee insists he's not cheap labor.
I'm making $32 an hour. Of course, we're making more money here in Canada, but it's not a huge difference from China.
Some people want to play the race card and say, well, you're just being racist. We're not. We're saying that if we need workers for Canadian mines after you've exhausted the education route and looking for people in our country, then allow people to immigrate and become full Canadians.
These men won't have that opportunity. HD is not sponsoring the workers to stay here past 2 years. Lee says he's aware that his presence in Tumbler Ridge is very controversial.
I believe the good workers are those who are able to perform. It really doesn't matter if they're Chinese or Canadian workers. As long as he performs, he's a good worker. It doesn't matter where the person is from.
Ottawa is now reviewing the temporary foreign workers program as a result of this case and other complaints across the country about misusing workers from abroad. But Hank Rahm believes in a region that's often had trouble getting people to move here, few will complain about missing out on these jobs.
I don't have a problem with the Chinese doing the underground work. Just my opinion, but I got no intention of going down there. They asked me if I would come for a tour when they open it up, and I said, yeah, as far as the flashlight shines in from the mouth of the tunnel.
So, as they await the outcome of the court case and the federal review, Lee and the rest of the miners say they want to focus on getting settled in.
My first wish is to make more Canadian friends. Second is to make more money, and I don't have a girlfriend. I'd like to look for one here.
Thank you very much.
It's a relationship Tumbler Ridge hopes will flourish too. The town, its coal, and the miners from China. Chris Brown, CBC News, Tumbler Ridge.